All right, we are live on Rapzilla.com with the man, the homie, crazy #1 rap hip hop album on iTunes right now. #7 album overall, free single of the week. Collision Records flagship artist, Mr. Swoope. How you doing, sir?
I'm feeling good, brother. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. How was the day? You're releasing Sinema. Your baby is out there. People are dissecting it. What's going on? What you feeling?
Yeah, my baby is out there, but my day was all about my other 4 babies. This was a very regular day. I got up, got my kids together, took them to school, changed diapers, all of that stuff. So I haven't really been able to glory in the excitement, which is probably good. It's been a regular day.
That's so hard for us who are just fans of your music and everything that you do. It's just so hard to imagine that today is a regular day, especially since so many of us were anticipating it. You know? Yeah,
no, it was regular. Like my sons pooped like a regular day. My daughters peed on themselves like regular days. So there was no like flash.
No free passes.
Nah, it wasn't like, yo, I got the #1 rap album in the country. Change these diapers.
Like, Daddy, I'm hungry. What's going on?
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to get in with Swoope, and we're going to be answering your questions as well at the end, so send those in to the Rapzilla Twitter account. You can tweet me as well, Burns23, or you can go to the Rapzilla story, and we're going to get it in talking about the new album entitled Sinema.
Yeah.
New album entitled Sinema. Now, Swoope, how is this different? Just hop on in. How is this different from Wake Up?
Hold on. I'm trying to tweet this link out so people can watch. There we go. How is this different from Wake Up? I would say an immediate difference on the back end was it was harder to write. There was just a very I talked to KB about this last week at Legacy. Just a very low period that I went through in life. Whereas Wake Up, it was just like the pen was just spilling like every day, new song. Like there were songs that didn't make Wake Up because it was just so easy to write. Sinema was just, it was tougher to write. So that's the first thing. And then sonically, it's not all break beats and pianos. You know, the way Wake Up was. I tried to venture away from that, especially since there had been such a long gap in between Wake Up. So totally different album from Wake Up.
Have you been itching? I mean, because, you know, it's been a minute, like you mentioned, since Wake Up. Have you really been itching to release this?
I would say the itch came in the past 3 months, but over a span of 2 years, that's not a lot of time, you know.
Right.
I think things like High Society, We Live as Kings, the Unashamed 5 tour, the Crimson Core tour, a lot of those things have scratched my rapper itch. To where now that it's album time, for a while I was just kind of like, oh, okay. And then once things kind of started to come together, it's like, yo, I want them to hear this, you know. So,
yeah. How long have you been working with the concept of Sinema?
With the concept, knowingly or unknowingly?
Let's do both.
Knowingly since about December of last year. Unknowingly, like I started talking about Maya on my last album, like on my first album, excuse me. There's a song on the Zoo, my first album, called Goodbye, which the song on High Society that's called Before Goodbye is the prequel to that song. And then the song on Sinema that's called Before Goodnight, which is an interpolation of Before Goodbye, traces back to Goodbye on my first album. So I've been talking about Maya for a long time, you know.
Man, okay, all right. See, you already getting into it. You already. I gotta get these questions in, man. Y'all gotta get these questions in. We're gonna break it down. Okay, now let's get into the concept.
Okay.
And actually, before we get into the concept, I want to ask a question now. Everybody in Collision has you were the first artist. Now, everybody in Collision has done a solo album, and you guys have done a group album. So you've been around the circuit once, a full time.
Yep.
What's different about the genre than when you started and were releasing Wake Up?
Platform. When Wake Up came out,
Swoope, you there?
You there?
Okay, yeah, you froze on us. All right, you good now.
Okay, my bad. Platform. When Wake Up came out, it was like, yo, I put this album together in my basement. Can we put it out? And we did, you know, but there were no pressures. There were no expectations. I was the new kid. Nobody really knew who I was unless you had heard the zoo, and that was maybe, 50, 60 people. So there was no platform. There was no pressure. As things have built over the last 2 years since Wake Up, which was the first album Collision put out before everybody did their solo albums and We Live as Kings. Now there is platforms. There are pressures. There are expectations to be compared to this person or live up to what CHH or mainstream hip-hop is doing now. Whereas when we first started, we were the new kids, and we could do no wrong because there was no precedent. So now precedent, I wouldn't say works against us, it just works us harder.
Yeah. You care about charts?
Do I care about who?
Charts?
Yeah. Every artist cares about charts. Because my day was regular, I haven't been glorying in the charts, as some people may assume that I would be, on a day like this. But I think that's better for my heart, that I don't get the big head, like, what? I got the #1 rap album in the country. What are you talking about? Like, I just didn't have time to do that because I wasn't checking them all like that. I checked them here and there, I ain't gonna lie, but like every 30 minutes checking the charts to see if things have changed. Life won't allow me to do that, which is a good thing.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. Guarding your heart. I feel you. All right, so now we're about to get into the meat of the album. We see some more people joining. As we told you guys earlier, get those questions in. Really want to get that in, and I want to allow you guys to ask some questions about the concept, the album, Swoope's life, what he's going to do in the future, Collision, anything. He says nothing is off limits. So we'll go with that. All right, so now break down the concept. Who's Maya? What is Sinema? Break it down for us for those who may not have had a chance to get deep into the album yet.
All right, so Sinema is an audio film. I wanted to make a movie that you could listen to. A lot of my writing, almost all of my writing is inspired by movies. That was evident on Wake Up with Inception and things like that. So this time I wanted to make a very focused effort at making a linear storyline, a very focused storyline, making a movie. So Sinema is an audio film that dwells and talks about the sin in me. So Sinema, sin in me. And Maya Desiree, as the album progresses, you find out that she is personifying my desires, which is where she gets her name. Based off of James 1:13 through 15, every man is drawn away by his own lust or desire, some translations say. And when lust is conceived, important word, seed, it gives birth, another important word, to sin. When sin is full grown, important phrase, death comes. So this entire story is about my desires trying to get me to conceive with her a baby, which we do. That baby is sin, and then she wants me to help raise the baby so that when the baby is full grown, as James says, it brings forth death. So it's the highs, the lows, the pitfalls of our love-hate relationship, which is a very narcissistic album because Maya Desiree is me.
Yeah, so do you think like that? I mean, is that something that comes naturally? Do you have to really like sit down and plan that, or is that something that naturally, that natural flow and metaphor and all that, does that come native to who you are?
Yeah, I think it's native. Like I speak in analogies a lot with my friends and a lot of my cronies and homeboys. I like to paint pictures to get the point across. As opposed to just saying like, hey, here it is. I want to do an illustration, to further get you to see what the point is. The way kind of Jesus did with parables. Like, he could have just came out and explained, like, well, this is what the kingdom is, this is what the gospel is, blah, 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 blah. But a lot of times, there was the sower and the seed, the parables, the illustrations, the story to get your point across. So it's just the way my brain works, man. I tend to like movies like that, Inception, The Matrix, A Beautiful Mind, The Truman Show, things like that, that make your brain work to get to the point.
Is there a similar, there's a sound that, and it's hard to describe, it's like a fluttering sound, like whenever you're about to enter into, was that similar to what happened in The Matrix, or a Matrix sound?
Well, I'd have to go back and watch The Matrix again to hear that sound. What it was for us, the team, was I found this sound in a sound kit that I bought. And I was like, oh, this is a dope sound. I want to make a beat out of it, right? And that beat turned into the intro eventually. And as we were talking, we were like, man, when you are telling a story to a child or reading a story, a lot of times, an audio story, the book has that chime when you're going to the next scene, you know, or turning the page to let you know that something different is getting ready to happen. And I was like, I want this to be Maya's calling card. So the only time Maya speaks musically, like the voicemails are her actually speaking, but she only speaks musically twice, on the intro and on Beauty and the Beast. And you hear the sound at both of those to let you know that she's getting ready to talk. And then at the end of the album, where it's kind of the inception ending, you hear it again, like, even though I've, you know, postured my heart towards Jesus, she's still kind of talking to me.
Man, okay, yeah. So it just sounded familiar, and I can tell. That's what I thought it was, but that's super dope.
If that connection is there unknowingly, that's just providence. That's super dope.
Yeah, I think it's the fluttering sound when Morpheus is taking Neo to do the jump. I think it's something like that, or when he's taking him into the Matrix.
Okay.
Just to see I think that's what it is. Don't quote me. I don't have the movie, so you know, I don't know. That's what I thought it was, but you know, you never know. Yeah. Again, we getting in with Swoope talking about Sinema. Okay, On My Mind, JR, dope song. Talk about the process of creating with JR, that high society connection.
JR is a king, man. He's just like one of the easiest producers to work with because he's always about catering towards the artist. He does a very good job, without actually saying this, of pulling the best out of the artist. Like when you hear people on JR tracks, it's almost like he's their coach, coaching them like, nah, you can do more, you can do better, you can do more, you can do better. But he never actually says that. He just pulls that out of you with his charisma and his character and his personality and things like that. So he had a demo hook and the beat already made for On My Mind. And I was like, bro, I have to have this song. When I heard it in the context of the story, I immediately thought, like, this makes me think of how sexy Maya is. So, and this song just kind of evolved from there. I wrote the verses. He took the demo hook and put words to it, and it came out to be what it is.
Yeah, with this being so personal, man. And side note, like, is this? You said it's difficult to write, but was it painful? I mean, was it like really painful? Like after this album, after writing it, did you see sin completely differently? Not just in your mind describing it, but now actually in your life, did you see it totally differently now?
I would say more therapeutic than painful. There was a self-realization, which is one of the things I want to happen with this album, and we'll get to that later. But there was a self-realization on my part that, like, these things these desires, these lusts are evident. They are real. What are you going to do about it? As opposed to kind of being in this sea of denial, like, oh, Lord, you're so holy, you're so awesome, which he is, and not really dwelling on, like, but I'm a wicked, wretched mess on the inside, you know. So not painful. It was just more of, like, putting it on the table. Like, all right, here it is. Let's deal with it. You know? So therapeutic, I would say.
Yeah. So you get it in. All of high society is represented on the album.
Yes.
Getting in with Mr. Show, Mr. 4th District. And we're gonna get into high society a little bit later, just so you know. So we get in with 4th District here, and the remake, I guess you could say, or part 2 to the track that it's TGC, right?
TGC, Truth, Goodness,
TGC. So it's the remake to what you saw, or part 2 to what we saw on the High Society track, and you guys got a lot of heat for that. And were you in true High Society fashion, right?
There you go.
Like, let's do part 2 to this. It's controversial. Yeah. Let's do part 2. Yep. So explain. You were like, look, some people are saying I think I'm better than Wack. Yeah, I'm not Wack. Why would I want to be Wack? Yeah. Explain the hesitation that we have in our Christian culture of pursuing excellence and declaring something excellent.
Yeah, I think the hesitation is there's a very thin line between boasting in the cross and boasting. There's a very thin line where you're speaking of excellence. And I think the heat that we got on TGC 2 was people didn't know which side of the line we were on, right? That song still stands as right in my mind. I think if I was to do it again, I would maybe add some bars to over-articulate that the excellence that we're boasting in comes from Jesus Christ, right? These aren't gifts that we have in our own strength, right? Like these gifts came to us without repentance from the Father. Every good gift from the Father of lights. And I would say I think I would do a better job of over articulating why I'm saying I'm eating rappers for lunch. Like this cat can't rap, and through the power of the Lord Jesus, I can. I'm finna eat him for lunch. So TGC Part 2 was like, let's do it again, but this time let's do it better. Like, why is he being so arrogant? Is he saying he's better than whackness? Yes, I am. Should I settle in my craft and be lesser than, or follow the footsteps of my dad and be excellent? Like, follow the footsteps of my creator, my father, and be excellent in my craft. So TGC 2 was kind of like, nah, we meant what we said, but let me just kind of explain a little bit more.
Now, what's the connection to the TGC 2 track and Let Me Be Great, which was a song that you released non-cinema? I'm sorry, I had to bring it up.
Yeah.
It's a crazy song, and it kind of whet all of our appetites to the fact that, man, Swoope is creating something major.
Yeah.
Now, what's the connection between TGC, TGC 2, and Let Me Be Great?
So Let Me Be Great was and I'm sure you can hear it, it was a frustration record. I heard a list from an internet radio station. It was a Christian hip hop hot or not, top 10 type of thing. And I made it to #1, and I should have been satisfied with that. But the way I made it to #1 was it was fishy. It was like, I made it to #1 because you didn't like #2 or 3. Like, I mean, Swoope kind of falling off, but I'm not really feeling this guy, so let's put Swoope at #1. So that's where Let Me Be Great came from, right? It was a very human record, very like, hey, I want you, the fans, to feel like I'm sitting in your living room talking to you, and I'm just venting my frustrations, right? So TGC 2 trailed off of that. The first line in TGC 2 was like, oh, I fell off? Like, when did that happen? It was a trail off of that. A lot of comments over the last 2 years, here and there. Like, you do a good verse for Lecrae, a good verse for Andy Mineo, it's good, but like, oh, Swoope kind of got out-rapped on We Live as Kings, or Swoope, like, he's falling off here and there. Like, as an artist, I hear those things, right? So TGC 2, Let Me Be Great was more frustration, and TGC 2 was like, okay, like they're doubting, not me, but the gifts and skills, again, that are in me. So let's just put them on display. Like, let's show them that the Lord is still excellent in me, in my craft.
What do you, as an artist, how do you want us to, I'm trying to ask this question correct. How do you want us to judge your art? Like, because I think a lot of times we have out of sight, out of mind. And so we remember Wake Up and we remember We Live as Kings, but as quickly as it has been, as soon as it has been since that, I think sometimes we forget you as an artist, what you're capable of, and we hear one verse and it's not to our liking, and then all of a sudden you're falling off. But what is a proper way? It's almost like a chef, right? A chef says, eat it this way. Yeah. Like, eat this little bite this way. Dip it in this sauce so you get the full flavors. How are we supposed to listen to Swoope?
Yeah. I say a couple things. One, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. So I'm not telling people not to say things. I'm just telling you that we hear them. Two, what I would say is, and I hate to sound like a dad, but there is a such thing as social media etiquette. Like, I feel like people tweet and Facebook and Instagram as if the artists are not reading them. Like, these are their personal accounts. And if you guys are fans of artists or family, I try to treat my fans like family. I feel like they are. Like, there's a certain way that you express your frustrations. Like, I'm not saying don't be frustrated. You feel like I fell off? Tell me. Like, I need to hear that. But there's a certain way to say it. And then thirdly, I think you said it. You have to keep the artist's body of work in mind. Like, I didn't like Nas's Godson, but I can't forget that he wrote Illmatic. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I hear Godson or Street's Disciple, I can't be like, man, this dude is the worst rapper ever. Oh, my good. Like, this dude freaking wrote Illmatic. Like, come on, let's not forget that. So you got to keep those things balanced in your brain when you're thinking about, like, hey, I'm human. I could write a whack verse. But you got to keep in mind that, like this is the same cat that wrote something that I liked a year ago or 6 months ago and things like that. So just kind of be balanced.
Yeah, I haven't heard that whack verse, but that's just me. I haven't heard it yet from you, but hey.
They exist, trust me.
And I think that's part of what I was talking about at the beginning with the fact that it's hard for us to realize that today was a regular day for you. Mm-hmm. Things didn't change. We kind of view you guys as artists as, impervious or, superheroes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To where you're just going through and you may struggle a little bit, but you don't feel things the same way that we feel things. You've kind of been, superpowered and supercharged. And clearly, like you said, you guys do see those things. You do feel those things. You put your hearts and lives into this.
Yeah, I think that's because fans' only context with their artist is media. So you see your artist on social media shining. You see him at the concert shining. You see him at the iTunes chart shining. But you don't see them, which that's probably about 20% of their lives. You don't get to see the other 80%, the struggles, the victories, the failures, and things like that. So it's almost as if they are not human because you only see them in this very small musical box, over here, which is where they are as an artist, and that's fine. But I think you just gotta realize that we're humans.
Yeah, we getting some comments in from some people. Shout out to Adam Thomason checking us out, leaving some comments on Rapzilla. Appreciate you, brother. Man, if you got some questions, we want to get those in. We already have some really great ones to work with. I'm not gonna go track by track, but I just so happen to be right now. So next track is Same Team. Yeah. And Same Team is phenomenal and it's crazy, and it features them Givens boys at the end. So
them dudes tried to end my career.
Judah to you, Judas, man. Judah to you, Judas. But man, okay. So can you talk about whenever you bring people together, it's special, but then your message is the Same Team, and you kind of talked about it a little bit on social media as well, with Lecrae having the top song on iTunes the same day that your album is releasing. Can you talk about unity in the body, unity in CHH, and what you're trying to portray with the Same Team track?
Just that, unity. Point blank period, in that if there's a starting five or a star player, like, do I criticize them because I'm the 6th man or the 8th man or the 12th man? Like, no, we're all on the same team. Like, B.J. Armstrong won rings with Michael Jordan. And if you're asking who B.J. Armstrong is, that's my point. Like, he was on the team with Jordan. He came in, played his role terribly at times, but he came in and played his role. He didn't come in like, Jordan, pass me the ball. It's like, nah, like, if you're the star player, like, let Craig do his thing. Like, Lecrae is doing his thing, and it's opening so many doors for us. Like, what do I look like being on the same team as him, mad because I'm not on Hip Hop DX, or mad because I'm not on BET's The Backroom? It's like, nah, like, we're all here for one purpose. It's to elevate the Lord Jesus Christ. And if you're not here for that purpose, you're not on our team. You know what I'm saying? So I talk about that. The first line is, if Craig sells 1 million records and my name doesn't get mentioned in the review, it doesn't matter. I still get the W because players on the bench get rings too. Like, if I have an issue with that, I think the issue is more pride than unity. Like, well, what about my name? What about my platform? What about my label? What about my,
Yeah.
So just unity, and I think we articulated that with Collision, Reach Records, Humble Beast, Dream Junkies. We're going to put out another one with a gang of other cats. Just kind of like, man, we're all on the same team. Same team.
What would you say to somebody who would say, and counter was saying, yeah, same team, easy for you to say because you're hot right now?
I wasn't hot 2 years ago, and I haven't been doing anything different. Like, you can ask the people in my circle. Like, I'm the same cat that I was when I got signed to Collision Records. It's very easygoing, harmonizing guy. Like, hey, if it's time to put Wake Up out, let's get it. If it's time to put At Last, Gold Rush, School of Roses, I'm behind the scenes working my tail off. Like, if Andy's got a video on BET 106 in Park, I'm tweeting about it. I'm Instagramming about it. If so-and-so's got an album that's dope and you don't know who he is and I happen to hear it, I'm going to tweet about it. I'm hot right now in people's mind by the Lord's grace. It's nothing that I've done on my own, so I couldn't boast in that anyway. Like, yeah, I am hot right now. It's me. It's like, nah. But then we start getting back into the pride thing again, and eventually we'll end up back at, well, what about mine? Like, nah, cuz we on the same team. If Craig's the star player, if Andy's the star player, if Reach Records is the starting five, Humble Beats is the starting five, let them do their thing. Let them put points on the board. So when it's fourth quarter and you get called into the game, you're ready to play. You're not still trying to take off your warm-ups. Like, be engaged in the game, supporting your fellow players.
Yeah. Now, just had a question I was going to ask you, and I lost it. So we'll come back to that. Okay, we'll come back to it. All right, LSD is the title track. It's also the video, which was really dope. What was the motivation for releasing LSD first? Led to a lot of questions.
Yeah. LSD was, I think, the first song that was ready to be released. So we put it out first. That song got the most legs first as we were creating, and it was, I just think it's a dope song. But I think it worked to our favor because we didn't give the beginning or the end of the story away. Like, LSD is almost like right in the middle of the album. So it made people inquisitive and like, like, what's going on with this Sinema album? As opposed to like, oh, that was nice, next. It made people ask questions. It was a conversation starter is what it was.
Yeah. Are you freestyling at the end for real? You just in the booth just going?
Yeah. Freestyling at the end. In the beginning, I needed. The first time was a freestyle on the demo that Chris Gray was like, yo, you need to keep that. So that started out as a freestyle and just kind of made the record. And then at the end, I was at Witt's house recording, like, hey, man, just cut the mic on and let me go for like one take. That was one take, Jake, because you can hear me stutter and fumble over my words one time in there. So, yeah, man, real hip-hop.
Dope, man. All right, now moving on to a song I want to get into called Best of Me, featuring Natalie Lauren, which is personally tied for my favorite song on the album. And I love the fact that you were super honest about what we think of as, the backpacker style or the rhymes or the metaphors or the punchlines, how that, that pressure to keep that up has impacted you and has sometimes left you even said on the track, depressed.
Yep. Yeah, man. That's a for real wrestle, I speak for myself. I can't speak for a lot of other backpack, almost conscious rappers in our genre. But it's a real wrestle when you see, lines like I'm too bugger. You hear those lines like, I want to do that. Like, that's fun. It works. But that's just not necessarily my cup of tea. There's the wrestle of, like, you see that works at a show. Like, Andy doesn't rap that verse at shows because the whole crowd is rapping. You know what I'm saying? And then you get into songs like, if we go back to Wake Up, like Mirage, like, nobody's finna rap that at your show. Like, you have to rap that because it's so complex. And those are legit wrestles that I wrestle with, man. So, like I said, I always want the people to feel like I'm sitting in their living room talking to them. So Best of Me was just a real, like, man, let me just tell you what I'm feeling about music right now.
Even how you wrote that song, it was excellent in how you delivered, articulating your concerns, and it led me to think, are you writing every day? Are you rapping every day? Is it something that you're constantly sharpening? Is it once a week? Like what is it? I'm not trying to let you give away the secret sauce or anything, but I'm just curious, man. Like,
no, I laughed because I know my boss is watching, and the answer should be yes.
Yes.
But it's just not, man. I am music director at my church. I have 4 children, a wife. I'm a leader in the community, and it's just hard to carve out dedicated time. I know I need to every day. So there are pockets of time where, like, I've been writing for 2 weeks straight, 3 weeks straight, and then I won't touch a pen for 4 or 5 days. I'm consistently thinking, I'm consistently perceiving, listening in conversations and things like that, and just life. But writing every day, I wish I could. I just don't.
Yeah. Let's kind of zoom out from the album because we talked about a number of different tracks, and we'll come back to a couple. But I want to ask you this because you guys create albums differently. You guys, it's a very intensive process, right? So seeing the different solo albums, you've seen that they've gone and you guys have almost locked yourself in a room. I remember B. Rife saying in the School of Roses preview video that you lock yourself in the room and don't take no for an answer. Like, get some people who are awesome, just don't take no for an answer. How was this different from School of Roses? Like, was this a different process, or was it more intense, or did it flow naturally?
It was different because the idea was in my head longer than it was out for other people to weigh in on. And that was a point of a bone of contention and friction within the album. I mean, within the label, in that, like, I'm asking them to trust me and do these things, and da 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 da. But in hindsight, like, dag, I was asking them to do that with an album that they had never heard. That's been in my brain and still in my brain. So no, this wasn't a School of Roses where we all go up to Witt's house in Philly and get together, and Chris has got these songs written, and it's like, yo, what do y'all think about these? Like, the first time we got to Philly, like the first day with me, JR, Shabby, Witt, Tragic was there, Fish was on his way, I just talked because there were no demo songs. There were no, stuff on records. It's like, I've been conceptualizing this idea for the past, 6 to 7 months. What do you guys think about it? So it was totally different from School of Roses in that, because like I said, it's a very pleasantly narcissistic album about me. It was all in my brain, so there was no lock yourself in the room until I could get it out.
So you released a 12-track album. Wake Up was 15. What was? Did you have more in the tank that you could have given us?
I do. There are definitely songs that did not make the album, songs you've been hearing at concerts that you're asking about. There's definitely more in the tank, and we've got something special planned for those. So.
Good deal. Okay, no hints yet. No hints yet. There's still time left in the interview for you to release that in a slide and covert way. We're about to get into some questions from the fans here. We're going to ask a few more questions about Sinema. Get those questions into Rapzilla. We already got some great ones. You can also leave them on the YouTube page, and you can also tweet us as well. And we are glad for you guys to be able to hop in and ask him some questions about such a great album. All right, let's talk about the realization song, Sin in Me.
Yep.
The realization that this was a nightmare, and you wake up and we hear that signature alarm clock sound. Yeah. I was so glad to hear that come back. I think that's great. But talk about the realization, and practically, instead of just musically, talk about the realization of sin in our lives and what that looks like, and how we're supposed to come to a repentance point to where we can say, fix my heart.
Yeah, so theologically, the verse in James, verses that this is based on, like, that scripture starts with, no man can say God tempts him, right? This is on you. Like, these are your lusts. So there has to be a moment of self-realization, because James is not giving us an out to blame this on God. Like, dang, God, man, why you keep tempting me? Why you put that girl in front of me? Like, this is on you. So Sin in Me was that moment of, like, all right, everything we've been talking about, of course, creatively, we flipped it like, oh, Maya's Me, it was a nightmare and all of that. But as far as the heart of the album, the scriptures are concerned, it's like, we've got to deal with what's inside of us, like that wicked and deceitful heart. Like, it's on the inside of all of us. It's not something that we can deflect or reflect onto somebody else or cast and blame, point fingers, scapegoats. It's like, nah, it's you, cuz. It's me. Like, those are things that we have to deal with. So, yeah, very intentional song, Sin in Me. So, yeah.
Dope. Now, Beauty and the Beast, Lecrae tweeted this. He was like, if you don't know who Swoope is, you will on Tuesday. And so you got a whole bunch of publicity, you got a whole bunch of shine today for a free song this week on iTunes for hip-hop, which creates a whole nother opportunity for sin in you, which is interesting, right. Which is why we have to keep you in prayer. But would you say that pride is the root of all the sins?
That's a deeper question than I want to answer right now.
Good.
I don't want to steer people wrong without giving that some thought. I would say it's definitely a foundation for a plethora of them. But of all, like, that's a very weighty blanket to put over all sin.
Well, would you say it's the root of all the sins featured in Sinema, or not?
Definitely.
Not necessarily.
No question. No question.
Yeah, okay.
Right. No question at all. Yeah. I know the album is dressed up in adultery. Like, if you're not really paying attention, you just think that the entire album is about this girl that I'm cheating on my wife with and things like that. which was kind of the colorful way of just addressing sin, period. You know, when James says every man is drawn away by his own desires, like he doesn't name lust or anger or pride. It's like, nah, like the sin, whatever it is that easily so besets you, that's in you, like that's what I'm talking about on Sinema. It's dressed up in adultery. And we hit on pride a lot because I struggle with it myself. Since the album was about me, there you go.
Cool, cool. All right, now final question about the actual songs on the album. Fix My Heart, that's the tie. It's Best of Me and Fix My Heart are my favorite songs.
Okay.
And I think it was almost like a modern hymn, I want to say, just kind of interspersed in, and it was so heartfelt, and you were pointing us in the right direction. Talk about the creation of that, and also the refreshing. It almost feels like the album has been under the weight of a cloud, a dark cloud, and then it's almost like you can see the sunshine when you hear the melody. So can you talk about creating that?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the word hymn, because that song was kind of birthed out of two in particular. Jesus Paid It All, and then Prone to Wonder, Lord, I Feel It. The name
Come
is
Thou Fount. Yeah, Come
Thou
Thou Fount.
Fount. Right. Yep. So it's like, yeah, there is this heavy weight. It's like sin left this crimson stain, but he washed it white as snow. It's kind of like this very heavy statement, like sin left this crimson stain. I'm talking about Jesus paid it all. Very next phrase, but he washed it white as snow. So I'm like, immediately, like the weight is gone, right? So that's what Fix My Heart is. Like Beauty and the Beast, Before Good Night, Sin in Me. Well, shoot, right side, Beauty and the Beast, Before Good Night, Sin in Me, is where the album takes the darkest turn that it has on the entire record. And Fix My Heart is the immediate turnaround. Like, I made it a dream so that I could have the posture of saying, like, that was a nightmare, that was a dream, yes. But Lord, these desires are realities. Like, it's not like I dreamt about Maya and she's some fictional character. Like, she's real in my life right now on August 5th in Akron, Ohio. And because of that, like, I need you to posture my eyes, posture my heart, posture my affections to you, that I want you more than her. Because I'd be lying if I said I don't want her. Like, I'm human. Like, that's not going to happen. But Lord, posture my heart so that I want you more than I want her, you and only you. So there is this immediate kind of weight lifting on Fix My Heart.
What are some practical ways that you do that in your life? How do you keep your eyes fixed on the prize, even when sin is pulling you?
Yeah. Another hymn, right? So turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face, right? And when you see him, like, the rest of the world, the things of this world will grow dim in the light of his glory and grace, right? So the best way to kind of keep your eyes fixed on Jesus is to fix your eyes on Jesus. Like, he is the most wonderful, beautiful being, like, that we could see. And when you see his light and his glory and grace, like, all of the rest of the mayas of life become dim. So I think a very practical way is to, like, very focused and intentionally fix your eyes on Jesus and his wonders and his grace.
When you guys made We Live as Kings, one of the things that stood out to me a lot was I was surprised as how theological the album was. Right? I was surprised at how rich and deep it was, not because I didn't think you guys are, but because I didn't necessarily know that was going to be the default in your music, where you were going to go. And now hearing you articulate these things, again, it's the richness and the depth of theology. Is this where you guys are comfortable at? Is this where you feel like you have to be? Is this just a particular season where you feel like you're more aiming towards the church or aiming towards talking about things from the perspective of theology, even though it may not be necessarily didactic or teaching?
Exactly.
You guys still have the richness of it, just saturated throughout the music. Is this like a season, or is this where you guys are comfortable?
This is where we're comfortable. It's like we're going to talk so that everyone understands us and that it's attractive and you want to ask questions. And when you start asking questions, then we start talking about Come Thou Fount. Then we start talking about Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus. But up front, it's like, oh man, Fix My Heart was a really dope song for anybody that's listening to it. I am not a didactic rapper. I'm not Shaolin, and I love Shaolin. I'm not Timothy Brindle. I love Timothy Brindle. And I'm also not, some of the other cats on the other side of the spectrum. Like, I try to sit right in the middle to where I'm almost people pleasing to a sense, to where when you hear certain songs like "Fix My Heart" and you know about these hymns, you know about the scriptures, it triggers. But if you don't, like, there's just a feeling in humanity where it's like, man, I'm not going to do this well. Like, this is going to end bad if I do this on my own. So there's something for those people that aren't clued into the scriptures, that aren't clued in, you know, the things like that. So just kind of sitting in the middle, looking for opportunities to expand and expound upon what I was actually writing about.
Yeah, one last question about the construction of the album, the kind of cinematic elements. Is that something you feel like you'll always have? I remember somebody said there's somebody related to you that does music scores or something like that. And so is that where you feel like you're always going to live, and that's your contribution to the culture?
Always. I'm not going to make that commitment, but that's where I've been for quite some time. So right now, that's where I'm at. Like, you know, we didn't use strings and horns, but the Hans Zimmer aesthetic is what I want to bring to albums, to where it's not just a sonic experience, but it's an emotional experience as well.
All right, let's get into some of these questions. You ready?
Yeah, let's get it.
All right, what's your favorite song on the album?
Next question.
Generic question. Yes is the answer to that question.
Yes. Right? I'm not going to pick a favorite song. It's like picking a favorite child. I would say the song that I've been quoting the most in interviews and talking to cats is "Best of Me." I just feel like that's definitely the most personal song on the album, and people seem to be connecting with the transparency. So not favorite, but if I had to pick one right now, it would be "Best of Me."
R.L. Lee asks on Rapzilla, he says, what was your wife's thinking and reaction during the process when you're talking about such openness and transparency, and then you have the album art and everything? What was her reaction?
She was very supportive. She got to see this baby that's come to life today as an embryo, you know. So when we get to 6 months into pregnancy and I'm writing songs like "Before a Good Night," she can reference the conception of the idea and say, like, oh, this is what this is about. So she's been nothing but supportive. Nothing but supportive.
How much was the Rayshawn Johnson asked this question? How much was the influence of the High Sock album present here in the Sinema album?
It was heavy, like you hear "Before Goodbye" sampled in the intro. You hear me switch up the lyrics to the hook from "Before Goodbye" on "Before Good Night." I wanted to use some earlier things, "Murder Me" on "Wake Up," "Goodbye" on "The Zoo," because, and then you hear "Beautiful Monster" from Thizzle. But High Sock, that verse on "Before Goodbye" was one of the foundational verses that I wrote in the past that Sinema was based on. So it was very prevalent for me to kind of think back to the emotions, the feelings, and the heart of what that verse was, and kind of birth Sinema from that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, now let me see here. There was one question I really wanted to get. Oh, yes. So the way the album ends, right? Somebody talks about how it ends, and if I'm guessing, that just means sin will always be calling, essentially, and you kind of leave it hanging. Is there more at the end, or is that just, of course, there's more in life?
You tell me. The Christopher Nolan of rhyme.
The artist never wants to reveal the meaning of the end. That's fine. Okay, well.
I will say what you said is right. Though I'm begging the Lord to posture my heart, posture my eyes, posture my affections, posture my passions, my time, my love towards Him. That is not to say that my heart is no longer deceitful and wicked. It still is. So the next morning, I'm going to have to do this battle over and over again, right? So my assurance of victory in this battle, this is a line from Fix My Heart. My assurance is in the resurrection of Jesus. I fight sin daily, knowing He already beat it. So this isn't like, oh, I finished the Sinema album, I'll never struggle with Maya again. No, she called me again. So your kind of explanation of the ending is right. Is there more? It's up to the listener.
Armand on Twitter, shout out to Armand, and some other people have been asking a very deep question that I want to get to. Who's the girl in the LSD video?
It's my friend Anastasia. Yes, she's a stylist in New York, and she just fit the role, like the her beauty and things like that, a very universal face. Like I didn't want a black girl, I didn't want a white girl, even though Anastasia is black. Anna just fit the role. So yeah, she's my friend from New York. Of course, she's from Cali.
So Neil McKnight asked on Rapzilla, and I think this is going to be one of those yes answers, but I'll ask it anyway. What was the hardest song to write on the album?
Hardest, they were all hard. Like I said, I went through a real low period with this album. They were all pretty difficult. But I say the one that took the longest and the one I wrote last was Sin in Me. Like I had the scene in my mind from jump, right? Like this was one of the first beats I made from the album, like before any lyrics were written. And I played this beat for Chris when we were making School of Roses. Like, yo, I'm working on this. Like, I want this to be the birthing scene when she has the baby and blah, 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 blah. So I've had the scene in my mind for months, but I didn't necessarily write the script until I had the rest of the movie as context. So hardest, they were all difficult, but Sin in Me took the longest to write.
What are you chewing on right now as far as scripture and also reading that kind of enhance your writing?
Reading books, definitely the Screwtape letters. Like I read C.S. Lewis' Screwtape letters back and forth for Sinema. The line on LSD, ever increasing searching for ever decreasing pleasure. Like that's taken straight from, I want to say letter 6 or 7 out of Screwtape letters. And then in the scriptures, I've been in Judges with the story of Samson, like how he continually messed up, but the Lord still granted him his spirit in his time of need. So, yeah.
Who else kind of had input into the album as far as production and writing? Who were some of the hands that were in the album?
Yeah, so the team was myself, Wit, JR, DJ Official, and Kristen Gray. Those were the hands on the album that helped mold in some areas, help push in some areas, help pull back in some areas. So all 4 of them. Shouts out to all of them.
Who's singing on Right Side? Somebody asked who's singing on Right Side.
Kristen Gray.
Okay, good. That's what we thought. Just wanted to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now let me ask you this: where's Collision going now? Okay, you guys have been around. Okay, you've got the 4 artists. You've gone through each one of your solo albums and a group project. I talked about how different the genre is. Now what's the future? Where are you going?
Up, hopefully. I feel like we keep kind of banging our fist in our head on this glass ceiling. And I'm hoping that Sinema kind of shatters that so that we are doing more for culture outside of just the small Christian hip-hop genre or subculture. So hopefully, I'm hoping is where Collision goes. I'm hoping things like the American Idol commercial happen more often, to where people are getting good Christocentric music on a large scale, at the freaking Super Bowl. Like, I'm hoping that happens more often.
Yeah, Kellis had a question here. He wants to know, shout out to Kellis, is the zoo when you wake up from the dream of Sinema within the dream of Wake Up?
Yes. Good question, Kellis.
Cool. Okay, now a couple of more questions before we let you go. Are you encouraged, discouraged, or really none of the above? It's kind of situational. It's up to what you see by the whole of Christian hip hop and where we're going, and what do we need? What do we need in Christian hip hop?
Encouraged. I think Christian hip hop is at a place we've never been before. Same team, right? So we just won a Grammy. We have been on BT, MTV, Hip Hop DX, the Rock the Bells tour. Same team, even though we're talking about the great. So I'm encouraged in that, like, by him going to these places, he's opening up doors for the cats that are qualified and willing to walk through them, right? So he's not opening up the doors for the whack Christian hip hop rapper that's just kind of making it to be famous and he's not, you know, opening up the doors for the people that aren't prepared in their hearts to walk through.
Swoope, you there? Did we lose you?
Love and grace for our fellow. Uh-oh, did I blank out?
Yeah, you did. You did.
Uh-oh. So what I was saying was, make sure you buy Sinema 50 times to make it go platinum. I would say encourage, if y'all missed that, because we're at a height that we've never been before. You know, Super Bowl, Grammy, BT, Backroom, 106 in Park, Rock the Bells tour. Like, encourage in that. And same team mentality, like we're all there, right? Reach Records, Craig, Humble Beast, and a lot of other labels are opening up doors for people that are qualified and willing to walk through them. I think what we need is a whole lot more love and grace for our fellow Christian hip-hop counterparts, and a whole lot less self-centered music making. Like, oh yeah, I'm talking about the gospel, I'm talking about Jesus, but I'm really pushing my own agenda, right? Like, we need a whole lot more people that are pushing the kingdom agenda, which says, like, yo, if I baptize 3 people and you baptize 30, I'm pumped because you baptized 10 more people, right? As opposed to like, dang, man, I wish my album was on the blankety, blankety, blank. So I think we need a whole lot more love and grace for our fellow counterparts and a whole lot less self-centered music making, kind of hiding behind the mask of Jesus to push our own agenda.
Outside of that self-centeredness, and what are the threats, the outside threats?
Money. I think now that we're reaching these heights, like, cats are peering in and seeing that, you know, me and Lecrae are the top hip-hop albums in the country right now, 2 Christian hip-hop albums. So I think cats, you know, the higher-ups in mainstream hip-hop are peering in, like, what can I do, you know, to invest in this? And as they invest, they start to become co-owners. As they start to become co-owners, they want you to dilute a little bit more. As they dilute, and it's just, the rabbit hole goes deeper and deeper. So I think money and exposure for Christian hip-hop are outside threats to our hearts, right? When it was just like cross movement or the tunnel rats or whatever, like just kind of in this little huddle making music, you know, for the Lord Jesus, it's all of these same people with the same mind, same heart, same team, right? So it's easy. Now that we're getting this exposure, it's like, I could have a video on BET, I could have a video on MTV. Let me take this out, or let me put this in, you know. So I think those outside threats of exposure are something that we really need to think about, pray about, posture our hearts in humility, and remember the kingdom mindset and agenda that we're supposed to be pushing.
Yeah. So final questions here. When's We Live as Kings 2 coming out? When's High Sock coming out?
To both of them soon. There we go.
For real, for real. Okay, you know, I think, man, what High Sock did was so groundbreaking, and we could have a whole nother chat on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was so groundbreaking and so needed for us. And I think since you guys did that album, normally people fill in that lane, and again, not to put you guys in rarefied air, you know, to prop y'all up, but I feel like nobody filled that lane.
Right,
so we're kind of like, oh, that was great. And so to get that, we kind of got to go back to the High Sock album. That's why I asked, you know what I'm saying? So
well, I would say me working with all 3 of them on this album was not an accident. Like, scheduling 4 solo artists with families and things like that, it was just tough to do that again. But Voltron will be reassembled very soon. Very soon.
Cool. Now, who should we be listening to that we're not?
I don't know if you're not, but John Gibbs and Jay Gibbons and Kid. Those are the 3 people that I'm like stupid excited about. Kind of the next class, as Jay Gibbons says, of guys that love Jesus, right? So that's the no-brainer. Like, you love Jesus, he is the passion of your heart, the apple of your eye. But those cats can rap. Like, they're good. It's not like, oh, he's cool for a Christian rapper. Like, Kid and Jay Gibbons and John Gibbs will rap 90% of your favorite rappers under the table. So I don't know if you're not listening to them, but I'm stupid excited about all 3 of them.
Agreed. And one final question. This is the last question. For real. There's so much that we could go into. I'm trying to restrain myself so people can listen to the album a little bit more, then ask some more questions. like we talked about before. But anyways, okay, talk about how influential AT is and his direction and his pouring into you guys. How influential is he to the label, to your lives, and to
Yeah,
the future of music?
to both the label and the lives. He is the Phil Jackson to the Bulls dynasty. Like, you've got good players, but it takes Phil to bring Scotty and Michael and freaking BJ Armstrong together, right? Adam has filled a larger role in my life than just CEO. And that's articulated in the way that the label functions as a family. So he's like the supreme visionary, right? We may go back and forth on how that vision is articulated just because we have very similar personalities. But I trust that dude with my life, concerning the label as an artist and then concerning my life as a man. I'm deflecting a lot of my questions that I have as a 28-year-old man, husband, father, to Adam, to AT, I'm sorry. So he fills larger shoes than just, he owns Collision Records, on an artist standpoint, it's like this dude took a chance on me out of the blue. Like, I put this zoo out. I live in Akron, and at the time that I got signed, like, LeBron wasn't popping the way he was. He was just kind of like the high school phenom that's hasn't taken the Cavs to the finals yet, So there wasn't anything about my city that drew him to me. It was just like a very clear God choice, sovereign choice, for him to take a chance on me. And then over the years, we formed a friendship to where we'll fight like cats and dogs over certain things. But you only fight like that with people that you genuinely care about and have a passionate heart for. So concerning the label and life, he's the leader. He's the leader. He's the visionary.
Well, Swoope, thank you so much, man. There's so much more we could get into, but we're gonna let it breathe, man. We're gonna let it live. We're gonna let the album speak for itself in a lot of areas. Where can they go get the album Sinema?
Everywhere. iTunes, Amazon. You can order physicals on the We Live as Kings website, the Collision website. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, IG. They're all Mr. Swoope. I've been tweeting out links and different things like that. Give the album a chance if you haven't heard it. Like, take a chance, listen to it, and then tell somebody about it. Like, I want this to live. I want it to live not for my own glory, but that me and Tyler prayed before the Google Hangout. One of the things he said was that this album would draw people closer to the Lord, and that's what I'm hoping will happen. More than iTunes charts, more than like, man, I hope he tours off of this. More than all of that stuff. Swoope being your favorite rapper, which I hope I am. I pray that this album draws people closer to the Lord, and that happens after they listen to it. So go tell somebody about it, man. You can get it everywhere.
Swoope, thank you, sir.
Yeah, man.
Well put. That's where we're going to close. Thank you guys for watching. Rapzilla.com. Keep it locked here, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.